Woo-wee! Good morning, everybody. It is Friday. Who did I miss at the pre-party? Hi, Ashley. Welcome back. Haven't seen you in a while. Hello, Nicey. I saw Bonafide. Mama, she is worn out. She had to drive 11 hours yesterday. Jules has made it in. Walking Dead. Jean, good morning, my friend. Sherry's in. There's our friend No Pants Bob. Wiz got the notification. Well, you don't need a notification. We're live every day at the same time. Set your cell phone alarm. Hello, Sarah. Hello, Avy. I think we all know what today is. I want everyone to be extra careful today, particularly our friend Sonia. Because, well, if you have seen any of the news going on, today is not expected to be one of the safest days, and not because it's Friday the 13th. No, not at all. Hello, Nerdy. What's going on? The first one in was Snow. She was in yesterday. I love when you guys are in here talking before like the show is, especially if it's not like a totally different day and you're already in here talking about the case. I love it. All right, OJ, now listen. We're not going to do that. You need to go and get your snack puzzle. Go get your snack puzzle, please. Hello, Tony. He loves knocking stuff off. He loves to knock stuff off the desk. As long as he's not disconnecting the Wi-Fi, we're good. Beeb said this story is absolutely sickening. Yes, it is. Whew. Now, our friend Two Boston Moms has not made it in yet, but let me know, alert me when she does, because today's her birthday and I want to wish her happy birthday. Walking Dead said snack puzzle. Yes. Our friend Just Me turned me onto this show, Jackson Galaxy. And it says the best way to handle cats that want to eat snacks all the time is to get a snack puzzle. And so he has a snack puzzle, and he has to solve the puzzle to get his treats. I'm thinking about getting one for DT Driver as well, but I'm going to call it a beer puzzle. All right, let's take a second and tell everyone happy Friday the 13th. So glad everybody is here. If you have already eaten breakfast, you may not want to watch this show. You might want to catch it some other time. But I hope you stick around. I hope you do. Because this case is crazy. Now, this will be the second time we have talked about this case on my channel. There's plenty of other people that have talked about it. We spoke about this case in June of 2022. Just Me said, y'all don't eat. Y'all don't eat. No. Well, hang on. Mayor said happy anniversary to me yesterday. 45 years. Well, congratulations. Let's take a second to tell Mayor happy anniversary. A big round of applause. Happy 45th to you. Are you guys going to go out of town this weekend? Going to go to dinner? How are you going to celebrate? Let me know. All right, let's get to some of the comments from the last show. Or first, let's do this the right way. Let me explain the case. Lacy Fletcher, and I will actually link the show from the last time I did this. And it's not going to be a long show because, well, it's a lot to take in. Lacey Ellen Fletcher was 36 years old and is believed to have suffered from almost paralysis, is what they say. It's a condition referred to as locked-in syndrome. Some call it shut-in syndrome. I have read other articles that says she was autistic. Some say she has Asperger's. I don't know. But on January 3rd, 2022, her parents, let me put these sorry sacks up real quick so you can get a gander at them. Here they are. There they are. Her parents returned home from a romantic weekend to celebrate New Year's Eve and found her dead on the couch. She was covered in feces, emaciated, her body riven with ulcers. Maggots had gotten into her bloodstream. She had been eating the foam out of the couch, and many other things. When they called 911 to come and take her, this is what they came across. I'm not about to show her body. This is where she had been sitting, and she was up to her breasts almost in her own feces and urine. Now, next to her was a TV tray with Cheetos, baby wipes, powder, and Disney movies. They basically had to peel her out of the couch. Her parents are considered pillars of the community. Many people believe that Lacey had just moved away and gotten married, and they just hadn't heard the news. They had no idea she was still in the house. Here's the house. Now, the other homes in this neighborhood in Slaughter, Louisiana, are far away from each other, so nobody would smell what was going on in there. How her parents didn't, I will never know, or they were just used to it. Because the coroner himself said, this is from the Daily Caller, the body of Lacy Fletcher, 36 years old, was found rotting and had melted into a couch at her parents' home earlier in the year. Dr. Yule Bickman, a coroner of East Feliciana Parish, I'm probably saying that wrong, said, I couldn't eat for a week. I cried for a week. Sources told the outlet that this is one of the worst cases of neglect they have ever witnessed. Dr. Bickham was limited on what he could discuss because he was subpoenaed to the grand jury. He said the smell was so bad, he called the couch a latrine, that he had to go outside and throw up. That's how bad it was. So from the last show, let's go through some of your comments. Wist said, tears for Lacey. Those people are pillars, all right. Pillars of neglect. I am trying not to imagine her conditions and cause of death. The parents could have hired in-home care, moved her to a bedroom, to a real bed, and cared for her properly. Or, like you said, in a facility. They sound like religious fakes who could walk by their daughter on that couch and feel the love of God? ? I hope Lacey found her peace. Second degree, no, this was murder in my opinion. They let her die slowly on purpose. It was no accident. The fact that there was rat feces on her body means that there was rats living under her inside that couch. The parents were obviously sick in the head. They did not love her. How can we say they did? I can't even imagine a doctor knowing about this and not doing anything. A doctor is a mandated reporter. You got that right. They didn't take her to the doctor. No. Robin Smith said this is some kind of sick evil that two parents that brought you into the world could allow for this to happen. Going about their lives, attending New Year's Eve while their daughter wasted away in excruciating pain. I hope they end up in prison for the rest of their lives. Rest in peace. Walking Dead said this is unacceptable. I bet she cried out for someone to help her. Not even her own parents would help. The ones who are supposed to protect you and care no matter what. They made this child and take care of them. I can't believe this. I can't believe they lived with her suffering and witnessed it. Oh, I agree. Oh, I agree. She was in extreme pain. Extreme pain. They went to church every Sunday. They went to work. Now, it has been said that nobody would come over to the house, go figure, but they were social butterflies. They would hang out with friends, go to LSU games, go up to Shreveport, to Margaritaville for New Year's Eve. Let's get to the update, and then we'll go a little more into the case. This is from Fox 26.
With a case that has been hard for even the most seasoned investigators to forget, the death of Lacy Fletcher. Last January, what was left of her rotting 100-pound body was found embedded, melted into a couch in her parents' Louisiana home. Investigators say the sofa was soaked with urine, feces, and other bodily fluids. Fletcher was disabled, and her parents, according to police, just left her there for years until she died.
12 years, they suspect. Could you imagine sitting in your own pee and poop for 12 years?
WBRZ Chief Investigative Reporter Chris Nakamoto has been following the investigation from the very beginning. He joins us with an update that we first brought you here on The Factor months ago.
And joining us on The Factor Uncensored tonight is Chris Nakamoto, investigative reporter from WBRZ TV in Baton Rouge. Chris, you and I talked about this very disturbing case several months ago involving Lacy Fletcher, the 36-year-old who died in her parents' house. For those who don't know the past history, first, tell us how she was found in her parents' house, and then we'll get to the latest news.
And the latest news is going to make you bad, but it has been rectified. We say all the time on this channel, see something, say something. Well, in this case, it would be smell something, say something.
It was just an extraordinary situation. Paramedics showed up at her house last January, and they found her literally melted into the couch, covered in feces, looked like her hair hadn't been brushed for years, totally neglected. The coroner's office ruled that she was totally neglected. She was literally fused to the sofa.
Fused to the sofa. Now, what it took to peel her out of that couch, I understand, was horrible because her skin didn't want to come with her. I have to be careful how descriptive I am, considering this is YouTube and they get real antsy about certain words. fused to the couch. Now imagine that. Melted. They had to pry her out of there. And there is the parents just standing there like, oh, are you going to help my daughter? After they had watched this deterioration for 12 years.
This as her parents were coming and going, living normal lives, going to work. Meanwhile, they have their daughter who had not gotten up from the sofa in what the coroner estimates was possibly years.
Wow. And what kind of illness did she have that they left her on that sofa without attending to her?
She had a condition called Asperger's syndrome. And so essentially it was just kind of a situation where she became more and more reclusive. A lot of the neighbors told us as we began covering the story, they used to see her outside playing, and then all of a sudden they stopped seeing her as she got older. And so they just thought that maybe she had moved on and moved away. But turns out she was living right there in her parents' living room, and that's where she died, unfortunately.
Yeah, to get it straight, she was never missing. She's a grown woman. She's 36 years old. The neighbors used to see her outside when she was in high school, junior high, however long they lived there. And then they just made the assumption that she had gone off to college, probably met someone, got married.
Got older, and so they just thought that maybe she had moved on and moved away. But turns out she was living right there in her parents' living room, and that's where she died, unfortunately, as well.
Now, initially, when this case broke, her parents were charged with murder. But now there's been a change in that, right?
That's right. So they were charged with murder and cruelty to the infirm. And from our understanding, it can't be both. And so as the DA was kind of looking at everything, their lawyers filed some court motions that basically had those charges removed because the indictment had some added language after. And so the new indictment was tossed on a technicality, but we did speak with the district attorney, and he says he plans on bringing it back up and having this couple re-indicted because he believes justice won't be served until they serve jail time.
Now, this brought a lot of public outrage. A lot of people have been following this, even here at Fox 26 in Houston. Our story was viewed 1 million times. People just outraged by this. Is there a chance that if this mother and father of Lacy Fletcher is re-indicted, could it be a lesser charge, or will it still be murder? Because I think people are concerned about that.
Certainly anything's a possibility, but when we spoke with the DA, it sounds like he's trying to press on and go after these two people on the murder charge because of what had happened to Lacy. When we spoke with the coroner last year, he said, look, I deal with death every day, and this is something that I can't even get out of my head. The smell was just awful. He said the minute he walked into that house, he left and actually had to vomit in the front yard. And so he said the fact that I deal with death all the time, and this impacted me in such a way, it's extraordinary to think that these people, her mom and dad, were literally living their lives, coming and going, and no one managed to know that their daughter was sitting there rotting away on the sofa of their living room.
No, it's my understanding, and I could be wrong, that the mom and dad are out on bond right now while all of this is going on.
That's correct. So they were out on bond initially after they were charged, but now that the indictments have totally been tossed, that bond really doesn't exist anymore because those charges are invalid. So the DA says within the next 2 weeks, they'll be charged again, they'll be rearrested, and then another bond will be set.
And for you, Chris, have you ever seen anything like this? I mean, and I think they said at one point, because she was on the sofa so long, maybe she ingested some of the sofa, started eating it, and there were other foreign things found in her body that she may have been eating as a result after the autopsy?
According to the New York Post, if their sources are correct, they found foam from the couch in her stomach. She was eating the foam.
That is correct. They found sofa material. They found feces in her stomach. I mean, she was literally just sitting in this pool of rot, just fused there and just left for dead. In the 16 years that I've covered news here in the Baton Rouge community, I've never seen anything like it. When we talked to the coroner, he's been doing this over 40-something years in that parish. He said he's never seen anything like it. So when you think that another human being could leave a loved one or a family member in this type of condition, it really makes you just question what their, what was going on with them. Did they have something going on in their minds to think that this could be normal? And the fact that they could live a normal life outside of the fact that their daughter's rotting away, dying on the sofa. They were going to church, to work, to the grocery store. I mean, just living like you and I would live as normal citizens on a day-to-day basis.
Did they allow anyone into the house during the time that she was alive and sitting and just marinating in that stew on the sofa?
They did not. So we spoke with a lot of neighbors when we started investigating this situation, and they said the last time that they went into that house was probably about 15 years ago. So that was about the time that it stopped. When she stopped going outside and became a recluse and just went into the house, that's when they kind of stopped allowing visitors to come in. But you can only imagine what it was like. The fact that she just rotted into the sofa. They said all the wood floors inside were buckling from feces and urine. They said just the stench permeating throughout that house was just a smell they will never forget.
Wow, just a horrible situation. Chris Nakamoto with WBRZ TV in Baton Rouge. Thank you again, and thank you for keeping us updated, sir.
It's crazy. It is horrific. All right. Parents, this one from the Daily Fail says she's autistic. We've heard Asperger's. We've heard of this locked-in syndrome, which the coroner said he doesn't even know what the hell that is. We've heard shut-in syndrome. I don't know. I know that for 12 years, they didn't get her any help. Your kid wants to lay around on the couch for the weekend, maybe. But after a while, if they're not if you know they're sitting on that couch and they're not taking a shower, they're not going to the bathroom, it's time to hit the 911. Okay, so they have been re-indicted on charges. Lacey, 36, was found dead in January 2022 in her parents' home in Slaughter, Louisiana. This one says again she's autistic. Lacey is believed to have been left on the couch inside the home for 12 years, and her body was so degraded that she was fused to the furniture. She was ridden with maggots. Her parents, Sheila and Clay, were arrested and charged with murder, but freed on a technicality, which means it forfeits the money they put up to bail out before. So from what I'm understanding, what I read, that money goes back to them. Then their bond is set again. They've got the money. They just bond out again. There they are. Look at them in all their glory. They don't look too happy there. Sheila and Clay, both 64, were rearrested on June 19th and indicted for a second time on second-degree murder charges for the death of their daughter, Lacey. Their defense is pretty plain and simple. Lacey's 36. All she had to do was get off the couch.
If you are type 2 and take metformin, well, check your feet and legs for these two things that I'm going to show you in this video right now. So, for anyone looking to take back control of their life and their blood sugar health, go ahead and tap on.
Can you explain why she was on that couch for 12 years? You have nothing to say?
Oh, they don't have shit to say.
Can you explain why she was on that couch for 12 years? You have nothing to say?
Woo! Not to get in anyone's business, but let me tell you what. They've got some nice vehicles. They have a nice house. They had money to bond themselves out. Why did they not do anything for their daughter? Why? Let's go back to the beginning a little bit. Then we're going to break it down. I have a video that Breland put out that I'm not going to play the whole thing because I want her to get the view. But let's go back.
Factor Uncensored starts right now.
Well, it's that time to kick off the Factor Uncensored tonight. New information coming to light in the case of two deadbeat-ass parents near Baton Rouge, Louisiana, charged in a severe case.
I wish every news anchor was like him, the Isaiah Factor. Listen to what he said about him. He's not politically correct at all.
Censored tonight. New information coming to light in the case of two deadbeat-ass parents near Baton Rouge, Louisiana, charged in a severe case of neglect. Now, we first told you about this story last night on The Factor. Sheila and Clay Fletcher are now out of jail after being indicted on second-degree murder charges. Their 36-year-old daughter died in a way no one should. Severe and extreme neglect. She literally marinated in a couch for years, basically melted into it, and was found covered in feces, urine, and we're told large maggots. Chris Nakamoto, an investigative reporter in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, broke the story with my former photographer in Baton Rouge long ago, Joe McCoy. Now, if you thought details of the story we first told you about were just disgusting, Nakamoto says there's more. He joins us on The Factor now with where the parents are now.
They actually had a bond set yesterday. It was $300,000 apiece. And then a bail bondsman came to assist them with that bail. But there was a little hiccup. He brought about $3,000 of money short that they needed to get out. So Sheila was able to get out last night, and Clay just bonded out this morning after they got some of the additional money. It really is just a horrific case of neglect. Both of them were indicted on second-degree murder charges Monday by a grand jury in East Louisiana Parish for basically letting their daughter, who had autism, rot away on a sofa, they believe, for possibly 12 years.
Wow. So how long was she dead before they called authorities, or did they call authorities? Give us the details on that, because it's not too clear.
I personally think they were buying those box seats at LSU games with her disability money. At some point, she had to have gone to a doctor and had a diagnosis. Her mother knows the system. She knows how to get around it. They both had really good jobs. They had no problem bonding out, except they were $3,000 short. So Clay had to stay the night in the pokey for Sheila to go get more money.
Our sources think that she wasn't dead for very long. The parents were out of town the weekend before she was found. She was found Monday, January 3rd. And they had called saying that their daughter was unresponsive. And then immediately when, paramedics help arrived and then the coroner arrived, he said, we need to treat this like a crime scene. Basically, he could tell it was just utter neglect. Literally, her legs were embedded into the sofa, and she hadn't moved from there. It was basically, from what we were told, like a latrine or a cesspool that she was living in. Just horrific conditions. She had open wounds to the bone from her feet all the way to her buttocks, and essentially had gnats and maggots all around her body.
Okay, let that, no pun intended, marinate for a minute. Ashley says, hang on, she said they could have taken care of her, but they chose not to. I agree. I think they were used to the smell. I really do, but I wonder, if someone's a heavy smoker, even when they're spraying on all the body spray and everything, if you're not used to the smell, you smell it. I can walk by a door and I can tell if someone's been out there smoking, because I don't smoke. Big T said it's nose blindness. So I'm wondering, when they went to their LSU games, when they would go to church, they'd go to work, did it not permeate into them, into their clothes, their hair? I would think somebody would be like, what is that funk? Unless they just kept the door shut at all times. I don't know.
Oh my God, that's just incredible and just so damn sad. Now, how did they live in a house? Obviously, there are going to be smells. If she is sitting there in her feces, her urine, and sitting there for at least a decade, how did they live in that house?
So that's what's so interesting. I guess they were just immune to the smell after living in the filth for so long. Listen, we got a picture from the living room of the floors that were buckling underneath the sofa, the wooden floors, because it was just layers upon layers of human waste, urination, feces, all on those wood floors. And essentially, the coroner told me when he had showed up at that house, he couldn't eat for a week. And he's a practicing physician who's been doing this for 30 years, and he's seen a lot of neglect before. He said he's never seen a case like this. One of her causes of death was starvation, and they said she was so hungry she was actually eating parts of the sofa around her. During her autopsy, they found sofa foam inside her stomach, along with feces. Feces were in her nostrils, they were in her mouth and her hair. Just a horrific, horrific case.
I got another word for it. So she's eating the sofa foam, okay? Not to be graphic, but she's a 36-year-old woman. So she menstruates, okay? And she's sitting in this couch. She's fused to it. The uric acid and all the other bodily fluids had melted her skin to the couch. When they went to get her out of the couch, I have a feeling they heard a rip. At what point did Clay and Sheila realize they couldn't get her out of the couch and just left her there? Today's a good day to go on a diet. If anybody's thinking about dieting, just keep watching this show. Keep watching this show.
What do we know about these damn parents? Who are they?
So
what did they do for a living? I mean, just who are these people?
They lived a normal life. The neighbors say they would see them come and go. They were always the church-going type, as they describe them, always in church every Sunday. The mother worked for a prosecutor in the city of Zachary, which is probably about 15 minutes from where they live. And it's not really clear what the dad did. He may have been involved in some nonprofit type work, but it's really kind of unclear what he did for a living. Some of our sources say that the daughter, who was nonverbal at the time of her death, was very verbal when she was in school. She was on the volleyball team and she could recite things like that. Some of the people that went to school with her. So it seems like she really digressed over the last few years.
What caused her to digress? She was active in school. She played volleyball. She had friends. What caused her to digress to the point that she wouldn't get off the couch? Was there some sort of sexual assault? I haven't heard anything about an accident or anything. But what would cause her to digress like that?
So it seems like she really digressed over the last few years, and the parents, instead of picking up the phone to make a call and say, hey, we need some help over here to treat our daughter's condition, they just let her rot away on a sofa. It's literally one of the most disturbing stories we've ever covered in my 15 years doing this here in the Baton Rouge area.
It is just mind-blowing. And so did they ever have visitors over to the house, relatives over to the house? What did people say if they did, or did they just keep her locked up? Was she placed in like a living room or some secret room where no one would see her in that house?
So from what we're being told, she was actually in the living room, and here's the kicker. The mother literally had her recliner next to the sofa where her daughter was literally rotting away. And so the sofa was positioned in front of the TV, and she apparently had been there for possibly up to 10 years or so. We talked to one of the neighbors who I had asked, hey, have you ever been in their house? He said, yeah, I've been in their house. Well, how long ago was it? He said 15 years ago. We actually broke the news to the neighbor that Lacy had died. He didn't even know that his own neighbor's kid across the street had died 5 months ago. So they kind of kept to themselves, and it seems like over the past few years, they really retreated, and they were basically like hermits, not really coming, inviting people into the house.
Right.
Sheila needs to think about that hair. When she goes to jail, maybe she'll get one of those county hairdressers like Sarah Boone. This is just sick. This is just sick. So she's eating the foam out of the couch. She has feces in her nose, but they leave a tub of cheese puffs.
Right,
because certainly I would think if people were in the house and witnessed that and didn't do anything, you know, Louisiana is one of the mandatory reporting states. Those adults would have a real responsibility to report the neglect that they saw. And if someone was aware of this happening, they could possibly face charges too.
That is just incredible and mind-blowing. And you see so many pictures with the mother and father with their LSU shirts on, out having a good time, all while their daughter is sitting there just wasting away and dying. So what's the next step for prosecutors now? Obviously, you said they are out on bond. And so what's the next step now for investigators and prosecutors in the case?
So the next step now that they've been indicted by a grand jury, is they'll have an arraignment where they plead guilty or not guilty. And then as that happens, then the process will move ahead with, you know, motions, hearings, and then possibly a trial date that will be set. But that probably won't happen for a few more months or so. But the autopsy was completed back in March, and it was immediately ruled a homicide, Lacy's death. And the big question that a lot of the public here has is, why did it take 5 months, if she died in January, to arrest the parents when everybody who showed up that night realized this was a problem? They'd never seen anything like this. The stench hit them like a ton of bricks the minute the door was opened. So how in the world did it take 5 months to arrest these parents? And from what the sheriff said was, they wanted to make sure that all their I's were dotted, T's were crossed. They knew that this case was going to a grand jury this week, and they wanted to see what the grand jury was going to do. And I think prosecutors were pretty clear. They were going to be able to get a charge of cruelty to the infirm, or maybe even manslaughter or negligent homicide, but no one really expected that they'd be able to get a second-degree murder indictment, which, if convicted, would carry a mandatory life sentence in prison for the parents. And so second-degree murder shows they had intent to kill their daughter, who literally rotted away on the sofa for all those years, and it appears they did nothing to help her.
That's horrible. Well, all right, Chris, once again, excellent job in reporting. You guys broke this story, and it's just so sad and disturbing that someone had to go through this, but we appreciate the effort that you guys do and make right there in Baton Rouge. Thank you guys so much. Chris Nakamoto from WBRZ TV in Baton Rouge, and my good friend Joe McCoy, the photographer, who's somewhere over there hiding. All right. Thank you guys for joining us here on The Factor tonight.
Thanks for having us.
Goodness. Sarah said, Brooks, my son is 4 and autistic, nonverbal. He regressed and completely stopped eating, only drank for a year. You have to work up with puree. He's now on solids. These parents didn't care. They didn't care. Obviously, they don't even care about their damn selves. Who could smell that? It makes you wonder. Not that I'm trying to help criminals get away with a crime. If no one knew she was in the house, no one was looking for her. I mean, she's a grown adult. They don't talk to family members. No friends are saying, hey, where's Lacey? I haven't seen her in a while. It's a wonder that they didn't just get rid of the couch and her. All right. Breland, and I will put the link in here. She had some extra information I want to go through. So that's where they live, Slaughter, Louisiana.
Lacy was born on November 25th, 1985, to her parents, Clay and Sheila Fletcher. They all lived in their family home, which is at 2568 Tom Drive. Their home is also located in East Louisiana Parish. In Louisiana, we don't have counties like other states. We have parishes. So county equals parish, parish equals counties, just so you know. Now some brief information on who Lacey's parents are. Lacey's mom, Sheila Fletcher, worked as a secretary at a prosecutor's office. She worked around law enforcement as a secretary, answered phones, did paperwork, and I find that extremely ironic. So the city prosecutor's office is actually in Zachary, Louisiana, which isn't far from Slaughter. Ever since this story broke, Sheila's been on administrative leave ever since April 26th. Also wanted to add that Sheila was also put on unpaid leave. I think she should have been fired, but it is what it is. When this story broke, it went viral. That's how I was able to find out about it. But what a lot of you may not know is all of this happened in the beginning of January of this year. So we didn't find out about all these details until they did the press release around April 26th. Before this story broke, Sheila also had another role in the community, which was the town's alderman. She resigned on her own shortly after Lacey's passing. It's also...
Does anyone think with all of Sheila's connections that possibly she thought that nobody would even as much as slap her hand? Again, their defense is Lacey's 36 years old. At any time she wanted, she could have helped herself.
Stated that Sheila's been working for the city of Zachary, Louisiana since 2011. So that's over 10 years. Now let's talk about her father. So her father, Clay Fletcher, was president of the Baton Rouge Civil War Roundtable. His co-worker, John Potts, had said that he knew Clay for 6 years, and it was just so hard for him to connect all of these events with him as a person because he did not even give out any type of inkling that he was like this.
The program director, John Potts, has known Clay Fletcher for roughly 6 years.
It doesn't match with my experience with him. Completely different than what you would expect someone like that to be. The details are horrific. There's no doubt about that. I can't conceive of how something like that could even happen.
Neighbors and friends say they never knew they had a daughter.
He mentioned that she passed away in January, and that was all I know of that.
Potts doesn't know if Clay Fletcher will be welcomed back to the group, saying they're seeing if there will be a trial and what the verdict will be.
The wait and see attitude. Yeah. You know, that's what the law is for.
As you can tell already, the Fletcher parents were very active within their community. They loved going to LSU, Louisiana State University, games. They liked football. They would always attend these different community events, family gatherings, and they were involved in their everyday life and with their friends and their family. But Lacey was nowhere to be found. According to one of Lacey's longtime middle school friends, she said she saw Sheila Fletcher's Facebook page And she noticed that Sheila hadn't posted a photo of Lacy since 2011. She found this to be quite off-putting because who doesn't post photos of their child for over 10 years? But regardless, she just didn't think much of it.
Because she's not going to take a picture of her on the couch. That's why. She's not going to take a picture of her on the couch. You're not going to post this. You're not going to post this to your Facebook. Nerdy says, does anyone have the iPhone membership link? I have updated my payment again for membership. It shows me active, but it's not working. Let me see what I can do. Send me an email because Kane had it. I don't have an iPhone.
But afterwards, friends of the Fletchers said that they hadn't been over to their house in over 10 years. It's also stated the Fletchers were rather reclusive themselves, although they still interacted in the community and had their jobs. Whenever they were in their off time, they would mostly just stay home. Now let's talk about Lacey Ellen Fletcher. The middle school Lacey went to was called Brownsville Christian Academy, which was in Baker, Louisiana. Lacey was described as being one of the sweetest people you would ever meet. She was kind and warm, especially to newcomers to the school. She would try to go up to them and befriend them and make them feel welcome at the school. She was on her school's volleyball team. She loved sports. She was very active with her friends and in school. However, a lot of the students that befriended Lacey had said that she wasn't your typical teenager. She was very childlike when it came to a lot of things. At this time, her friend was out, like partying and getting into trouble and stuff, and Lacey was at home watching Disney movies. And she even invited her friends over to watch Disney movies with her. They just noticed that she was on a completely different level of mentality than they were. Lacey also loved music. She had a huge obsession with Mariah Carey, and she even loved country music. At the age of 14, right after middle school, Lacey started homeschool in the 9th grade. So she did all of her high school years at home, and at the age of 14, neighborhood kids and her peers had said they noticed that Lacey started to become a lot more reclusive. One of her neighbors had said that Lacey looked completely normal the last time they saw her. She was naturally thin, but not unhealthy looking. And another neighbor who lived next door to the Fletchers had mentioned that the last time he saw Lacey was 15 years ago. She would have been 21 at the time of this last sighting.
Tell me, when was the last time that you saw Lacey? I told you about 10, 15 years ago.
And what did she look like?
I don't know. She just looked like a young woman. She was, she had these little dumbbells.
She was exercising.
Yes, she'd walk from her house around the circle, and she used to do that, I don't know, 2 or 3 times a week.
And when was the last time you mentioned that you'd spoken to Clay?
About 5 years ago.
And what did you ask him?
I asked him, how's Lacey? What's she up to?
Okay, now look behind him. That's how far away the homes are. These homes aren't on top of each other. Now, as far as like Amazon deliveries, UPS, FedEx, you can see from where their house is down to the road, the mailman's not going to smell anything. I know a lot of people are like, why didn't the neighbors do anything? Why didn't the neighbors call? She's a grown woman. I mean, nobody asked where my children are because they're grown. They're adults. They're like, have you heard from your kids lately? What do you guys do from the holidays? That's it. They're not 4, 5, and 6. Let's take a second and thank our friend Muscles for making it rain in here. She gifted 10 Crime Lines and Lies memberships. So check the community tab, check out our members lives. We've been in a pretty good rhythm of having members live every Sunday.
You know, I haven't seen her. He said, oh, she still lives here. She's doing fine. And just changed the subject.
What sort of girl was she?
She was a sweet girl. The few times that I talked to her. But like I said, she didn't come out a lot. I thought, you know, I just never thought that anything, you know, like that would happen here.
And you said that the Fletchers attended church regularly.
Yeah. Yes.
So this is completely different.
Yes. Never dreamed that anything like that was going on. She was an alderman. Sheila and Clay, I mean, they were. I didn't even know Lacey had passed until that day out there.
What do you think should happen now?
They're going to have to pay.
I also wanted to add that Lacy Fletcher hadn't been to the doctor since she was 16 years old. In 2010, a doctor had stated that both of the Fletcher parents had come in to see him and they asked about what they should do about Lacy's conditions. They said that she was a recluse, she had social anxiety, and she didn't want to leave the house. The doctors urged the Fletchers to bring Lacy to the hospital or in to see him because she was obviously in need of medical help, but it's said that they never did. Now let's move on to the events that took place on January 3rd, 2022. So the Fletcher parents called 911 asking for an ambulance because they said their daughter was no longer breathing. So of course, first responders came out immediately. When they got to the house and the door opened, they were hit with the putrefied odor of death. I also wanted to mention how the parents were acting whenever the first responders had come into the home. It's described by the sheriff that Sheila Fletcher was sitting down with her head between her legs, weeping, and Clay Fletcher was just sitting down, emotionless, saying absolutely nothing. The parents had left Lacy at the house, as they always did, and they were out on a weekend getaway trip. And when they returned home, their rotting daughter was no longer alive. The parents had stated that Lacy had some degree of Asperger's syndrome, social anxiety, and autism. So that's why she wasn't on the weekend getaway trip. So it's been misreported that Lacy had locked-in syndrome, but we don't know for a fact. Nobody knows for certain what type of mental inabilities she had. As first responders walked slowly into the house to find their patient, what they saw was something they never thought in a million years they would ever lay eyes upon. They saw Lacy on the couch, or should I say in the couch, no longer alive. These are some super graphic, gory, and inhumane details.
Yeah. It wasn't like she was passed out or had an aneurysm, heart attack. She was melted. She was fused into the couch.
So if you cannot handle it, please click off this video. Now, there are multiple hundreds of photos of the scene. These photos haven't been released to the public, and I don't know if they ever will be. There was, however, one photo that I'm sure you've seen by now, and if you haven't, I'm about to show it, and it's going to show human feces and urine. It's really horrifying, so if you don't want to see that photo, click away once again. This is the photo that has been going across the internet, and it shows the couch and where Lacy had spent 12 years of her life. 12 years she sat on this couch and rotted. District Attorney Sam Dakia had all of these horrific photos of Lacy, and Because he felt that people needed to know what he had witnessed and what happened in this case, he brought these hundreds of photos to the Daily Mail journalists. That's how we know all of these details. Now, these photos were also used in the grand jury indictment of both parents. We're going to get into that more later on, but first, let's talk about the most horrifying details I've ever heard. In the photos, it is said that Lacy appears to be buried up to her shoulders within this couch. There was a gaping hole, and she was literally sitting down in it. As you can see from the photo, it's just a hole. It's not there's nothing there anymore. Everything has been worn away. Lacy having been there for so long. They said her body was completely emaciated. Like I said, she was buried up to her shoulders in this couch hole, and around her was her own feces and urine that had built up over time. Not to mention, this urine and feces had probably been there for months, maybe even years, and it was slowly eating away at her body. They say that her body over time had rubbed off a lot of the couch cushion and the fabric. The fabric and couch cushions were soaked with urine and feces and bodily fluids. It was just despicable. They said when they
even teardrop and step meth would not treat children this way, and they're horrible people. Even Dawn and Candace Wells, even those two could not take that smell or look at this, and they are horrible people.
Entered, they saw Lacy in this hole. She was slumped over her left side, and then she had her right arm over her chest. They described Lacy as being nude, apart from this thin little t-shirt that was pulled up to her chest, but it didn't actually cover her breasts. Her eyes were wide open, so you could tell that they were fixed and dilated. She was definitely gone. They also described her as having her mouth wide open, and she did have all of her front teeth intact. They described her as not only being in the slumped over position, but she was in a more comfortable position, like her legs were crossed underneath her as if you're just like sitting there comfortably. I assume this was probably the only way that Lacy could feel any type of comfort. They said that her face was covered in large red blotches, and the feces was not only around her and around the couch and just everywhere, it was also all over Lacy. It was caked up in her hair. Her hair was all matted with it. It was up her nostrils and in her ears. There were maggots and insect bites all over her body. They had,
not to mention, she had bed sores to the bone. Bed sores to the bone. And good job for Breland for doing this. No way I could have done this video. I can hold my breath and interject when I can. Hang on. Tiff, did you get the link?
been eating her slowly. And they also mentioned the 18-inch gap next to the couch that did have some supplies. Obviously, this supplies was not being used. One of the things that was next to the couch was a gray porta potty. They said there was also a neat pile of clothing that was folded right next to the porta potty. And then to the front of that was a low-lying black table. And they said it was really cluttered. It had lotion bottles, talcum talcum powder. There was a pack of baby wipes, nasal drops to clear out your nose, probably from all the feces that was in her nose. I don't know. And there was also like a box that had a photo of a child on it, I guess like a keepsake box, which was also on this table.
So why even have all the supplies there for her when you know she can't get off the couch? They had to, what they had to do to get her out of the couch. She was fused to it. Hello, Tiff. Everyone give a big round of applause for our friend Tiffany. She's here to let us know what she thinks. Let me have it, Tiffany. What are you thinking?
Excuse me, y'all. My sister is throw. Listen. First of all, good Friday to everybody in the chat. Yes. Although it's Friday the 13th, Tiff don't believe in that kind of thing, because I'm going to tell you something. He's awesome. He is divine. So Friday the 13th, I just look at it as a blessing, Lord. This is double for your blessing. Brooks.
What?
What's good, baby girl?
Oh, well, I'm not stuck in a couch. Other than that, I mean, I'm doing good.
Okay, listen. This whole, and even when you did, Brooks, I don't know if you remember, but when you did the first story, behind this whole thing, and the baby had melted into the couch and this, that, and the third. Listen, this is just inhumane. I came up to say this is just inhumane. I have not even heard of a human being liquefied into a couch, Brooks. You heard me? You come with some stories, baby. But in this case, I do believe the parents they should be held accountable. Not only is it disgusting, it's inhumane. Not only is it inhumane, it is not even sanitary. And then you're going to have the audacity to bring other people into your household, other people. What do you mean? So my question is did the other people that came in the house, because Tiff is real like, oh, it don't smell right. The people that came into the house, did they not ever know that she had a daughter or what?
They didn't let people come into the house. Their daughter was 36 years old. The houses, I mean, they're in a neighborhood where the houses aren't like really next to each other. They each have like acreages of lot. I don't mean like 50 acres. So like the neighbors couldn't smell anything. It's like a country mile from their front door to the mailbox. So the mailman's not going to smell anything. And they have interviewed many people that said, we haven't been to the house in 15 years. Well, you know why?
Oh, that's ridiculous.
You know why? You haven't been to the house?
They had a human being melting into the couch.
That's right.
Not only is it disgusting, it is unheard of. Well, not really, because people do things. You know what I mean? But then this is their daughter, right?
This is their daughter, yeah.
I am shooketh and I'm appalled. It's disgusting.
I mean, I see DT Driver laying in the recliner for too long. I might get up and take out the trash.
Get them blood cells moving around or something.
But they let her sit there for 12 years and poop and pee into that couch. And again, she has her monthly cycle.
But my thing is, why? Did they not? I mean, what is that kind of smell has to be it has to be nauseating. So why?
And what I mean, I know they took her to the doctor when she was 16, or they called the doctor and said she refuses to leave the house. And they said to call the hospital, meaning you're going to call an ambulance and you're going to have, paramedics come and they're going to make her go. So they started homeschooling her.
I wish Bryson would. Now listen, I wish Bryson would. Do you understand? I would have this whole goddamn house. Girl, what do you mean he won't get up? This whole house to be demolished. And then you let her liquefy into a couch. That is inhumane. It's unsanitary. And I've never heard nothing about it. I have never heard anything of the sort until, let me take that back, until I saw the mattress of Summer Wells.
Oh, yeah.
Now, and I know a lot of people, when I saw that mattress that they brung out of the house, that right there really solidified to me, Tiffany, you don't know what goes on in this world. But if somebody would lay their child down on something like that, then yeah, they let her melt into the couch. They did. It's inhumane. It's unsanitary. And I've never seen nothing of the sort.
Oh, I haven't either. And she was only 96 pounds. So Clay and Sheila could have each grabbed an arm, pulled her out of that couch. If she wants to have a fit, and say, you're going to a hospital. That's all there is to it. Because you are not going to sit there and continue to poop and pee and menstruate and eat Cheetos in that couch.
When you poop, it's toxins in there and it disintegrates your skin. When we have a monthly cycle, not only is it healthy blood cells, but there are toxic blood cells that come out. That's why we menstruate. And you mean to tell me with the urine and the feces and the menstrual consumption, you mean to tell me that it wasn't a smell and it was okay with them? The devil is a liar.
Mm-hmm. And most of us want our kids to sit still. Sit still for a minute.
But their skin is on fire.
Not for 12 years.
That's why she liquefied into the couch.
36 years old.
Which is what probably would have happened to Summer. Summer probably would have liquefied into that you know what I mean? Into that mattress. What I'm telling you is this: you cannot go around like that, being inhumane, being unapologetic. That is too much toxicity, and it's gonna eat your skin alive. So however and whenever and however it comes down, Brooks, they need to be held accountable.
100%. Because
100%.
This wasn't like she wouldn't get out of bed for the weekend, which would be bad enough. Or she had some kind of bedwetting problem at 36.
Nope. It was none of those things.
No, this had been going on for 12 years. Look at the couch, Tiff.
And that's why I can't look at the couch, bro. It's too... Listen. Really?
It makes no sense. And there's no trial date yet because they just got indicted yet again.
Okay.
Because they dismissed those charges and then they indicted again because, from what I'm understanding, the legal jargon wasn't correct. So they just did it again.
So they're being held in the prison or not? In the jail or not?
Nope, they bonded out. They've been free as a lark ever since.
Okay, so they got a couple of dollars, right?
But not enough.
So the couple of dollars, you couldn't get a new couch and send your baby to go get it treated. You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
Things have to make sense to me.
Evil makes no sense to me, though.
Exactly.
Evil, and well, I mean, I understand laziness sometimes because you ought to see me when I'm watching football. I mean,
yeah, but you're not trifling and evil. 3 of your babies are serving our country. And I just got to give a shout out to that, first of all. And I'm not even watching chat, but I am going to say this. 3 of your babies are serving our country. And Brooks, let me tell you something. I just pray that Bryce can just be half the man they are. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart, sis.
He
I
already is.
mean that. I mean that from the bottom of my heart. This don't have nothing to do with nobody else, but just a sister to a sister and a mother to a mother. This don't have nothing to do with sons, husbands, none of those things. DT, I love you, baby, but this is what I'm telling you is from a mother to a mother. You have proven yourself, and I hope that Bryson can just be half the man that you've raised those boys to be.
He already is, because you're his mama.
You're his auntie. He love Aunt Brooks and Uncle Greg. But what I'm telling you, I mean that. And so I don't take parenting lightly at all.
Nope. I don't give cookies to people that do shit they're supposed to do.
Exactly. And for you to let your child liquefy into a couch is unfathomable to me.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it gets worse.
Period. I can't handle no word. That's why I'm finna go right in here. That's why I'm finna go right. That's why I called you first. I'm finna go right in here to physical therapy. Can't be no, I'm gonna catch the rest on replay. Brooks, I ate some oatmeal and sausage this morning. You making my stomach hurt.
I told everybody yesterday, don't eat before this show.
My stomach hurts, sis.
So I told everybody, if you plan to go on a diet, this is the show to watch.
I know that's right. I'm going to jump down. I love you to the moon and back and beyond. Bryson loves his Aunt Brooks and Uncle Greg to the moon and beyond. And I'm going to be right here and check. I'm finna drink the 7-Up, though. Then I'm going to go in there.
All right, girlfriend. I love you. Thanks for coming up.
Of course. Love you too. Bye-bye.
Absolutely love when Tiff comes up. You know, that day, well, there's been many that Brandy Neal's been on, and she was having such just a very difficult time. And Tiffany came up and she prayed for everybody in the chat, prayed for Brandy. It just turned her whole day around. We love our friend Tiff. We have made so many good friends in this community.
So then they said right next to this little black table, in between that and the couch, there were these boxes filled with stacks of DVDs of like Disney movies, which I find to be really eerie because she loved Disney movies. And they also mentioned that they could not figure out even what these movies were about because they were apparently covered in something. I'm pretty sure we can guess what that was. Because Lacey had been sitting in this one spot for so long and she was no longer able to get up and use her toilet, she had just been defecating and relieving herself in the hole in the couch that she was in. Everything had like seeped down into the floor, and this even caused the floorboards to buckle from all the urine and the bodily fluids.
Yes, fluid is heavy. Fluid is heavy. And particularly biohazard fluid. Someone said, excuse me, I missed who said it. Could you imagine eating in that house? They were known, Clay and Sheila, to pick up fast food. Now, could you imagine eating some Taco Bell with that going on? Could you imagine? Because I don't care if you have an iron gut. You know what Taco Bell is going to do to you.
Soaking into the floor. They also described Lacey as being melted into this couch. They said that she had been there for so long, her skin had begun to grow into the couch's fabric and cushion. She had essentially fused her body to the couch. I assume they knew this after they were trying to remove her remains, and that's probably when pieces of her body literally ripped off as they were moving her. So after they removed Lacey's remains, they took her in to the autopsy. So the coroner and autopsy physician, Dr. Bickham, said when he saw Lacy, he was so stunned by what he was seeing that he couldn't eat for a week afterwards. So the fact that this made a coroner, someone who does autopsies on rotting corpses, not eat for a week, and even he was stunned, that really says a lot about the neglect. The Daily Mail journalist is continuing to describe what they had seen in these photos. There's photos of Lacy laying on this cold steel table. As Dr. Bickham proceeded with the forensic examination, he later found that there are a lot more harrowing details that wasn't on the surface. So Lacy weighed 96 pounds when they brought her in. Remember, this is a 36-year-old woman. I don't know how tall she is, but a full-grown 36-year-old woman should definitely weigh a lot more than 96 pounds. Daily Mail journalists describe the close-ups of these photos of Lacy's flesh and buttocks. It had literally been worn away or like eaten away over time from spending 12 years on this couch. So the coroner also described on Lacy's body how there were these large areas where it looked as though the skin had just disappeared. It most likely rotted off. There were also blackened areas on Lacy's buttocks and backside, kind of similar to frostbite. The district attorney, Sam Dakia, had said Lacy had to be in pain. She had bed sores. She had maggots eating her flesh. The coroner had ruled Lacy's passing as a homicide once he got to her stomach contents. He found pieces of the couch's fabric and cushion in her stomach along with feces. She was so hungry and starving, she was eating the couch. I would assume that the reason there's feces in her stomach was because her entire body from head to toe, along with the couch, was covered in feces.
She also could not reach the table to get the cheese puffs because she was fused to the couch. It's almost like in Clay and Sheila's demented minds, they believed having the porta potty, the talcum powder, the cheese puffs, the Disney movies, the baby wipes, that she would just eventually get out of the couch like it's some sort of tough love. Well, if you want to sit there in your poop, go ahead. Let's see what UFC has to say. Hello, UFC, you're muted.
Yeah, what's going on? I was coughing, sorry.
Long time no see. Hey, so what do you think about this case?
Dude, I remember reading about this when it first happened. I've seen it on, I must have seen it on YouTube or one of those videos that show like the shock and to go like, you know, it's step by step and they show you what happened. They show you the pictures, you know? Mm-hmm. And I don't know. I think it got to a point where they, you know, I think the family, when the first happened, she probably shit herself or something, you know, and they're like, you're claiming it. They left there for a couple of days and just got out of hand, and no one wanted to step up. You know, if you call somebody at that point, I think they were scared if they call somebody, they'd get in trouble anyways. You know, and like you said, they're probably trying to manipulate her to get out and move by herself by putting food out there. But I mean, after the first hour or second hour, if she hasn't eaten that long and you put cheese puffs out there, you got to think at this point that she's not getting up no more. You know what I'm saying? Even an hour or 2 hours, you know, I mean, she's a kid, but something happened to her. Because she was going to school and everything was fine, right? And everything was moving.
36 years old.
But see, where I'm from, if you're special ed like that, the school will take you for a long time. Like after, like while you're an adult, you know what I'm saying? Or there's some kind of activities they do and they let older kids come in, and I just don't understand. Like, I don't know.
The thing is, I need more
clarity. That she played volleyball.
See, that's the thing. I need more clarification on what was really going on with her. I have heard shut-in syndrome.
Well, in high school and middle school. Was it that bad? You know what I'm saying, Brooks? Was it that bad?
Well, obviously not. No, she had friends.
She was playing volleyball. Yeah, she played volleyball and shit. So how could she be on a team? When I went to school, especially back then in the 90s, There's no way a special ed kid. I mean, I'm not trying to be mean, guys, but in the '90s, it was different than today. They can get on the team now, and it's different. Back then, it was a lot harder. It was like people were different, and especially in the South, it's tough love. I don't see anybody with that bad of a disability playing on a volleyball team, especially a sport like volleyball. You know what I'm saying? That's not an easy sport. I mean, I guess it is kind of, but not really. You kind of got to know what you're doing out there, and if that's why I just don't know how it got so bad. Where did it drop off at? Did she need a little extra love? That's why the school was like good for her, the social life, and she just fell off, or was the parents, really bad to her and just kind of, fucked her mindset up. It was already kind of on the edge, and it sent her off. I don't know, man. It's just weird to me how she was doing everything on her own until it was time to really do it on her own.
Yeah, but I mean, when she was 16, they called the doctor and said she refused to leave the house. She had social anxiety, didn't want to go to school, so they chose to homeschool her. Now, whether she graduated high school or not, I don't know.
That's the biggest issue right there. That was probably the down right there, because you don't let her out, see people, talk to people, and then eventually you stop talking. They probably weren't even talking to her. Come home and do their own shit. Get off work. Mm-hmm. Just ignore her. I mean, obviously that's what they did. They ignored her, but I just don't. That house ain't a big house either. It looks like about 2,000 square feet. You know what I'm saying? I mean, how that smell had to be going through that whole freaking house. It's just horrible. It's horrible. Seeing how she was molded to the fucking couch. Sorry for the language. She was molded to the couch. Every day they came home. I mean, that's like death penalty. You know what I'm saying? That shouldn't even be second-degree murder. That should be first-degree murder. Because after you didn't render help, if you see a car accident on the side of the road, you don't call the cops, and it's on fire and that person dies, you can go to jail for not rendering help. You know what I'm saying? And so you're going to tell me that their parents came home every day and that's not first-degree murder? That's crazy to me. You knowingly killed this person. Knowingly she wasn't eating on her own. Knowingly she was stuck in the couch. You know what I'm saying? I mean, at that point, it was already over probably, though. If the bed sores were to her bone, you know what I'm saying? She probably was so affected she couldn't even move. She probably didn't even want to move. You know what I'm saying? How bad the pain was. But it's just sickening.
I don't think there was 12 years. I don't think there is any way she could get out of the couch. And had they called 911, they would have had to have taken her and the entire couch with them. They would have had to have gotten a flatbed to take her to the hospital to unfuse her, or her skin would rip off.
Yeah. That's fucking horrible, man. The horrible people. It's look who you live with, man. That's their own kid, their own blood, too.
Yep. Hang on. We have Angel P backstage. I want to see what she says about this.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, hello, Angel P.
Hey there, Brooks. Woo, boy. I'm going to tell you the reason I came up, I had a patient in a facility, and him and his wife got in a big argument, and he got drunk and then had a wreck, DUI, and then he was bedbound after that in the facility. I'm going to try to be careful how I say this. Let's see. Okay, so he had a very bad, I'll say bed sore, but it was worse than that, on his entire buttocks, okay? He had wound care twice a day, and 39 years of nursing, they rolled him over for me to do his wound care, which I normally love to do. I'm kind of weird like that, but he had no buttocks. It was bone. It was bone. There were deep layers of muscle still present, but otherwise it was a soak and packing and packing and packing. He stayed on antibiotics. And to give you an idea of how painful something like this is, he was on morphine, and he was not hospice, about every 3 hours, in addition to oxycodone and OxyContin. So he had a long-acting, a short-acting, and every few hours. We had to medicate him really heavy before we could even do his wound care. Now, this is somebody... Go ahead.
Oh, no, I'm just reacting. No, go ahead.
Oh, I know. We had to medicate him, and he had pain Even with all that medicine on board, he had severe pain with that wound care. Well, this man was in a facility and was getting wound care at least every 12 hours, if not more often, when it was draining. But do you know that it actually started to heal? But unfortunately, even with the wound care and the observation and the bathing and everything that we did, he died of sepsis. So I can't imagine what happened to this girl.
I believe she did die from sepsis.
Oh my God, yes. This is the most absolute god awful thing I've ever heard in my life, and I'm trying not to vomit. I'm disgusted that those people got out on bond.
And you're a nurse.
I'm a nurse, and I've seen some nasty ass shit. I'll just go ahead and say it like that.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what, I have never, ever seen or heard anything like this. I just absolutely am blown away by the depravity and the evilness of some people. There's no excuse why, in my opinion, especially if you are of average intelligence, that you would not put her in a facility, get home health care when it first started, or even if they thought she was dying, to get some type of intervention, such as hospice, so she did not suffer. But let me tell you, there is no excuse for this behavior, in my opinion. And I hope that they go to jail for the rest of their lives.
Oh, I agree. I agree. You know, and faces were falling off when they heard that the charges had been dropped off. And then if you read the whole article, it's because it was a technicality. So they re-indicted them. They changed the legal lingo. And so they're back on the hook. We're just waiting to find out when the trial is going to be. But again, their defense is she's 36 years old and there was nothing wrong with her. She just wouldn't get off the couch. They are denying she had autism. They are denying she had Asperger's. They are denying all of these syndromes.
So what you do, especially with somebody that's 100 pounds or less, is you put one arm under their arm and one arm under their leg, and you take them out to the vehicle and you take them to the damn hospital.
Mm-hmm.
There's no excuse for that. I'm sorry. I just had to come up and say that. I have never.
Oh, no, you're exactly right. There's no excuse for it. I'm just wondering, at what point did Clay and Sheila say, all right, enough. We're going to get her off this couch, and then realize they couldn't.
Yeah.
And just waited for her to die.
Yeah. It sounds like gross neglect. And it makes you, I feel like maybe that at some point, you know, I hate to say it, but sometimes these caregivers get really apathetic towards the person that they have to care for. Not always, 99% of the time. They're always loving and sweet and good and do whatever they can to help that patient. But this right here is just like, I'm wondering if that's not true, what you said. That they thought, oh my God, look what's happened now. We can't call anybody because we're going to get in big trouble. And I'd say when they when they realized that, it was way too late anyway.
And so they were covering for each other, is what I think, because I mean, they were posing to LSU games, going away for New Year's Eve, going to church on Sunday. And I guess they just thought that she would whittle herself out of the couch.
No, that's cruel and unusual punishment is what that is. Oh my God.
Now, how many people have you ever had anyone contact, not you personally, but like wherever, you know, you work, I'm not going to say where you work, and say, you know, like when you're dealing, let's say, with the elderly, and they say, we need records because we believe that the kids weren't taking care of their parents. We believe they were abusing them or neglecting their needs.
Yes. Yes. Most of the places that I worked like that, there were social workers. And every patient had a nurse, a CNA, a social worker, and a chaplain. And this was in hospice. Also, in some of the home health I did, if I walked in a house like that, or any of our staff walked in a house like that, we did call the social worker, who then came in and reported them to Adult Protective Services, or whichever age group was appropriate. Yes, ma'am. That has happened, and those patients were removed from the home, taken to a facility, and unfortunately, a lot of the times they don't live very long after that, but at least they're in a better environment. At least they're getting a bath, and it's just disgusting.
It is. You're exactly right. I'm going to go through a little bit more of this, and then we're going to look at what Dr. Grande said.
Okay, good.
So when she was picking parts of the couch and eating it, I assumed she was eating parts of the couch covered in feces. They also found pieces of the couch's cushion and feces all throughout her hair and even in her nostrils and ears. Dr. Bickham reported that there were these gaping ulcers all over her buttocks and on her backside, which I assume are bed sores from sitting in her own excrement for many years.
That's exactly what you were just talking about, Angel.
Yes, ma'am.
They said that these sores went to her bones.
Mm-hmm. That's a stage 4 decubitus ulcer, which is a bed sore. That's the worst you can get. That means you've got
Lacy
bone
was covered in ulcers and bacterial infections, some that had eaten away to the bone. You could literally see her bone sticking out through her flesh. She was covered in maggots, gnats, flies, and she was starting to decompose. Dr. Bickham also stated that some of these ulcers and sores on Lacy's backside had been there since at least 2010. So I assume he could see where they had possibly healed a little and then ripped open again, so on and so forth. So not only was Lacy suffering from all of these ailments, she was also positive for COVID-19. I can't even put into words how bad this poor woman suffered till the end. So the medical examiner ruled that Lacy passed from severe medical neglect, which led to chronic malnutrition, acute starvation, immobility, acute ulcer formation, osteomyelitis, which is a bone infection, and
Okay, let's talk about osteomyelitis, because the coroner said that led to sepsis. I'm not a doctor, I'm not a nurse, but you're a nurse.
It's osteomyelitis, and it's like it's an infection in the bone. That's exactly what it is.
And there were maggots in her bloodstream. How the hell does a maggot get in your bloodstream?
Yeah, that's disgusting. I just don't know if I can explain that. Oh my God. She could have gone to a wound care clinic even too. I just thought of that. Oh my God. Sometimes they'll come and get people and take them and then bring them back for treatment via ambulance, but it's not an emergency. But oh my God. So she obviously could move her arms if they left her cheese puffs and there was feces in her hair and her nose.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess she splashed around in it, but she couldn't get off the couch because she was fused to it. So where they had the table, she wouldn't have been able to reach it because she had sunk so far down into the couch. I mean, it was up to her breasts.
Yeah, that sounds to me like that they just gave up and basically their inactions accelerated her death. That's what it sounds like to me. I don't know. That's so awful.
Oh, I think so too.
I can't even imagine. I cannot even imagine. There's no doubt I would vomit if I saw that. There's no doubt in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
Even just the smell. I've been in a trailer before with a patient of mine, that his goal was trying to live long enough so that his son could collect the life insurance to give him a proper burial. He had a dog in there. There were bed bugs, lice, bed sores. I literally carried a whole entire pair of tennis shoes, the little shoe covers you put on. I rolled my freaking pants up to above my knees when I went in there. I never sat down. I took the computer in, but I never sat down. So I saw him like 3 times a week. Saw him, didn't see him one day, didn't hear anything. Went the next day, knock on the door. The man had died. You could smell it from outside the trailer. I mean, this is awful stuff, people.
For the coroner to have to go outside and throw up. For the coroner to say he cried and couldn't eat for a week. I mean, it was like a horror show when they went in there.
Absolutely.
They come across bodies all the time. Because when the police got there, they were like, we got to have a coroner here right now. We're not going to wait to take them to the hospital and have the coroner meet us. We need someone here now in this room. And that's really odd when they do that. It's actually rare.
Mm-hmm.
Laura said, I'm a nurse as well. I've dealt and seen a lot, but this tops it for the absolute worst.
Absolutely. I just can't imagine her having any type of cognition and sitting there basically being eaten alive. I mean, it's just beyond horrific. I don't even know how to describe it. You know, coroners see things like you said all the time that most of us would be like, "Oh, I can't do that." So, if that happened to the coroner and or the medical examiner, you know, they probably had to take special precautions when they brought her body to the morgue for the medical exam and all that. So
they had biohazard suits on.
Yeah. That's bad.
Okay. And I'm going to post these links in the description. I've actually, for once, made myself a note so you guys can see the full clips of what I'm talking about. But let's see what Dr. Grande, he's the psychiatrist, what he thinks about it.
Speculating about what could be happening in a situation like this. If you enjoyed this video, please like it, subscribe to my channel, and consider supporting me on Patreon. I'll put the link to Patreon in the description for this video. On November 25, 1985, Anne grew up in Slaughter, Louisiana. This is about 30 minutes north of Baton Rouge. Her father's name was Clay, and her mother's name was Sheila. Clay was an officer for a nonprofit called the Baton Rouge Civil War Roundtable. The mission of this organization was to educate and foster an appreciation for the sacrifices made by all during the Civil War. Sheila had worked as a police and court clerk in Baker, Louisiana, and as an assistant to the city prosecutor in Zachary, Louisiana. In 1995, the family moved into a 1,700 square foot house on the 2500 block of Tom Drive in the town of Slaughter. Lacy Fletcher attended Brownfields Baptist Academy, but went into a homeschool program after the 9th grade. She had a number of mental health symptoms which disrupted her functioning. At some point, she was diagnosed with social anxiety disorder and autism spectrum disorder. Now moving to the timeline of the alleged crime. On January 3, 2022, Sheila called 911 at about 2 a.m. and reported that Lacy was not breathing. When emergency responders arrived to the house, they found Lacy dead on a couch. Based on the condition of Lacy
not breathing, you report she's not breathing. How did you miss this? She is sunk so far down into the couch. Her own fluids, the ones that our bodies make, are up almost to her shoulders. And you call to say she's not breathing. Are you kidding me?
Right. Oh my God.
Lacy's body, it was clear to first responders that the Fletcher house may be a crime scene. Here's what the police found during their investigation. Lacy's time of death was recorded as 3:07 a.m., but the authorities came to believe that she died at least 24 to 48 hours earlier. Her 96-pound body was partially naked in a crater in the couch in the living room. She had been sitting on this couch so long, the police described her as fused to it. She was surrounded by human waste. The floor around the couch was buckling from being exposed to urine and feces. Her feet were crossed under her. She had severe ulcers, which were rotted to the bone. Her hair was matted, had knots in it, and was filled with insects that thrive on decaying matter. Lacy's face was covered with red spots. Her entire body was covered with fecal matter. She tested positive for COVID-19. The brown leather couch where her body was found was described as having...
I don't know why they keep bringing up the COVID-19. She died from sepsis. She had wounds that had gone to the bone and infected her bones. I mean, you're going to say she had seasonal allergies too? This has nothing to do with it. Her neglect, medical neglect, and sitting in her own bodily fluids were the problem.
A style from the 1960s. Lacy had foam in her stomach which matched the foam in the couch, suggesting that she had consumed the foam out of extreme hunger. There was a gray toilet and a pile of clothing next to the couch. There was a black table a few feet away from it. On the table, there were many different items like talcum powder, bottles of lotion, and nasal spray. There were 2 boxes of DVDs between the couch and the table. They appeared to be children's movies. Many different conditions contributed to Lacy's death. The coroner suggested that Lacy died from severe medical neglect. It led to a number of medical conditions, including bone infection, immobility, acute ulcer development, chronic malnutrition, and eventually sepsis. The authorities estimated that Lacy had been on the couch for at least 12 years.
Now, not to be too graphic, Angel, but exactly how does sepsis work?
Well, basically, you get an infection that penetrates into your system. I'm going to try to be real generic. That penetrates into your system. The bacteria burden that you have makes its way via the bloodstream and circulates throughout the whole entire body. And then normally when that happens, you know, like if you were in a ER, this is going to be hard. My mother died from this in the ER, but, you know, once you get sepsis, everything starts shutting down. Your blood starts clotting to the point that, you know, you can't get any blood to circulate. You could throw an embolus into the lung or the heart. My mom had a seizure and her intestine ruptured is what happened to her. Oh. Yeah, I found her in the bathroom and we won't get into that because I don't want to get into that right now. But, you know, it's unbelievable to me. These people had all that stuff set up at the bedside on the table to give the impression that they were taken care of. But my God, all you had to do was look at her and see that they weren't using any of that stuff. Any of it. They weren't even bathing her. She was just like a piece of furniture in the house, I guess. I don't know. That's how it seems to me they acted.
She became the furniture. She was fused into the couch. Exactly. I can't believe this.
Exactly.
And again, their defense is she was 36. At any time she wanted, she could have gotten off that couch. She wasn't immobile. She became immobile from other things.
Well, if that were true, then why didn't she?
Yeah, that's what I want to know.
Before this all started, why didn't she?
associated with a low level of neuroticism and high levels of sadism, narcissism, psychopathy, and Machiavellianism. It is also associated with an increased risk of psychosis. In this case, no information about the potential personality characteristics of the Fletchers has been made available, other than people who interacted with them found them to be ordinary. There has been no indication of unusual personality traits, psychosis, or anything other than them being normal. Clay and Sheila fit well into their community. No one could have imagined they were allegedly killing their daughter. Item number 4. When this case first became popular in the media, there was a lot of talk about a neurological condition called locked-in syndrome. This is a rare condition where a person experiences complete paralysis of nearly all voluntary muscles in their body, while their cognitive functions and awareness remain intact. According to stories published in the mainstream media, Lacy was only diagnosed with social anxiety disorder and autism spectrum disorder. There's no reason to believe that she had locked-in syndrome or any other condition related to paralysis, other than the fact that she appeared to be on the couch for many years. The fact that Lacy had foam in her stomach indicates she was capable of eating. If she had locked-in syndrome, she probably would not have been able to do that. Item number 5. If Clay and Sheila intended to kill Lacy, why did Sheila call 911? Nobody was looking for Lacy. Many people didn't even know that Clay and Sheila had a daughter. They did not know that Lacy existed. They thought that Clay and Sheila lived in the house alone. The couple had all the time in the world to dispose of Lacy's body if they were interested in escaping responsibility for the alleged murder. It seems clear that they believed they would not get in trouble. They invited the police into their house and allowed them to see the absolute horror of Lacy's life and death. Item number 6. Based on the information available at the time making this video, do I think that Clay and Sheila are guilty of murder? Let's take a look at the evidence both for and against the idea that they are guilty, starting with the inculpatory factors. Lacy Fletcher died on a couch in their living room. She had clearly been on that couch for several years. Clay and Sheila did not appear to be too interested in talking about Lacy to other people, and it does not appear as though there were any visitors to their house. This seems more than a little suspicious, as if they were trying to hide what they were doing. The conditions Lacy lived in were beyond unsanitary. She had a number of medical problems, some of which would have been obvious to anyone looking at her, like the malnutrition and the sores. She was eating foam from the couch. She must have been in extreme pain all the time. Clay and Sheila did not arrange for Lacy to receive medical assistance. Sheila suggested that Lacy died not long before she called 911, but Lacy had actually died at least one day earlier. Moving to the exculpatory factors, Clay and Sheila claimed that Lacy was thinking clearly and could have made her own decisions. Sheila did call 911 to report that Lacy stopped breathing. That's pretty much it for exculpatory factors. When considering all the evidence, do I think that Clay and Sheila are guilty of murder? Yes, I believe they are guilty beyond a reasonable doubt, but of course at the time of making this video, the couple maintains the presumption of innocence. Now moving to the last item, number 7. If Clay and Sheila are guilty, what could have been the motive for the crime? I suppose there are a few possibilities. Perhaps they didn't understand how social anxiety disorder and autism spectrum disorder can affect a person's decisions. Like Lacy's symptoms were driving her decisions, but her parents thought that she was making decisions rationally. They thought they were doing the right thing by respecting her judgment. Maybe the couple was sadistic, and this was some form of punishment and/or revenge. They wanted to hurt Lacy in the worst way possible, so they killed her slowly over the course of years. Another possibility is that in some bizarre way, Lacy's condition became normal for her parents, like they did not appreciate society's values anymore. They became so disconnected from the norms of society, they judged their own behavior as appropriate. This could have even risen to a delusional level, something like shared psychotic disorder. So perhaps one of them became psychotic, and this was transmitted to the other. I don't know if Clay and Sheila will be able to build a mental health defense or if they're even going to try to do that. But it is somewhat academic. In my opinion, they are too dangerous to be free, regardless of what led to their behavior. Those are my thoughts on the case of Lacy Fletcher. Please put any opinions and thoughts in the comment section. They always generate an interesting dialogue. As always, I hope you found my analysis of this topic to be informative. Thanks for watching.
Woo! That's a lot to unpack.
Yes, and I love me some Dr. Grande.
Me too. I would just like for him to unleash one day, because, I mean, he always says, oh, I believe they're guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. Just come out and say, my diagnosis is they're pieces of shit.
Yeah, right. Right. You know, I wonder if they got, I'm not making excuses. Trust me. You know, I wonder if they got burnt out with her and then just kind of resented her and therefore neglected her. I don't know. I can't make excuses for evil. I can't make understandings for this. I can't.
It is so common for caregivers to not like their lifestyle cramped, to the point, like, let's say you have an adult child that's taking care of their parents. And not only are they spending their money, they're neglecting their care. They're taking their pills. They're selling their pills. And, you know, they just chose to do the wrong thing. But you know who did just do the right thing? Hang on. MK's making it rain. We have more Crime Lines and Lies members. Get those umbrellas. And I want to say thank you so much to Mama She for the super sticker. I appreciate it. Want to say thank you so much to my very good friend Angel P for coming up and explaining things to us that aren't in my dictionary, if you know what I mean.
Thank you, Brooks. I just wanted to come up and say that because I'm just so disgusted. Ugh. I appreciate you. I appreciate the mods. I appreciate
I do have one question, and you may or may not be able to explain it.
Okay.
How did they ignore the smell? Because, I mean, if I pick up OJ's poop, I gag.
Right. Well, I mean, I hate to say it, but somehow they got accustomed to it. Just like earlier when you were talking about the cigarette smoke, you know, people that smoke, a lot of times we don't smell the smoke on ourselves as much as other people do. Maybe they somehow got accustomed to it. And that right there, the fact that they got accustomed to that is beyond my comprehension.
I don't get it either. I do not get it. And how do you get accustomed to walking into your own living room and seeing that your daughter, whether at the time she was 25 or 30 or 36, was covered in her own fluids?
Yeah, there's no excuse for that. I mean, this is like so cruel. I don't even know if there's a better word than cruel. It's just cruel.
And how can their defense be? She's 36. There was nothing wrong with her. Anytime she wanted to get up, she can. You know, we have no diagnosis saying she wasn't in her right mind. This is how she wanted to live, and we just let her do it. That's going to be their defense.
Well, that's a bunch of baloney, because any normal person, if they got overwhelmed and truly cared about their person that they're taking care of, and they realized they were in over their heads, then they would call for help. Then they would take her to the doctor, take her to the ER, put her in a facility. There's no excuse for it.
Child or no child, someone pisses or shits on my couch or floor, guess what? They're going to get the hell out of my house. They're going to pay my cleaning bill, or they're going to the damn hospital.
Right? Right. I mean, that's what anybody would do. These people are probably sadistic, I guess, like Dr. G said. I mean, I can't understand it, that line of being and thinking.
I think what he was saying is right on. It was some sort of punishment for her. Since you're causing us all these problems, you can just sit like that. Seems that way to me, but I'm not the doctor.
Yeah. Now, I did have one similar experience. It was nothing like this, but there were a couple of sisters that lived way up in the mountains in Sevier County, and they were land poor. And I guess everybody knows what that means. They had tons of land, but they were living in extreme squalor. And they had on little slip-on shoes that little older people wear. And the shoes, when they came in to be admitted, were stuck to their feet. Their feet were horrible. But of course, we got that treated. Nothing like this ever.
For the coroner who just, lives right outside of Baton Rouge, to not be able to get this out of his head really tells me all I need to know.
That's right.
My friend, the cases we have seen over the years and have had to unpack, talk about, keep out there, and it's like you just can't wrap your mind around it.
No. There's no understanding sadistic, evil people, in my opinion. This is just evil.
Blue Petunias wanted to know if I showed the couch. It's been shown several times on the show, but yep, there it is.
And it's a leather couch. You know what I mean?
Yep.
It's not fabric.
Well, and hang on, my friend Angel. We get to hit on a positive note. Our friend Two Boston Moms just made it into chat, and today is her birthday.
Oh, yeah.
Let's take a second to tell our friend Two Boston Moms happy birthday. And many more.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. And many more. Yep. Thank you for letting me come up. I'm going to get down so you can close the show. I love you guys.
Friend, love you. Let's have a big round of applause for our friend Angel P, who knows just the right time to click in and help me save my ass. Thank you so much, Angel P, for coming up. UFC, it was good to see you again. Tiffany, thank you for coming up. I also want to say thank you to all the gifted memberships we had today. From Muscles Mascara, Nerdy became a member again. Mama She, thank you for the donation. Thank you, MK, for donating. Crime Lines and Lies memberships. You're going to like it here. We don't bite. We have another show on Sunday morning. We're doing our Super Soul Sunday because it helps our souls, if you know what I mean. And I'm just glad that you guys were here because I know it was a really hard show to get through. I appreciate the moderators so much because it doesn't really matter what show we're doing. They're all tough to get through. So you all enjoy the rest of your TGIF. Friday the 13th. I want you to be careful out there. And if you've watched the news, you know why. So if I don't see you in Discord or one of the Facebook groups, then I'll see you back here Sunday morning. Don't be an old stranger. You guys are the best.